This sitting is resumed.
Move that we go and resolve ourselves into standings.
Honourable Leader, Government Business.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I beg to move that you do not leave the chair and that the House resolve itself into Standing Finance Committee.
The question is that the Speaker do not leave the chair and the House resolve itself in the Standing Finance Committee. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it.
This House is now in Standing Finance Committee.
In the name of the Honourable Leader of the House, I move the passing of a resolution to grant the sum of $52,453,267 from the Consolidated Fund and to place it at the disposal of the government to supplement the estimates 2020 to 2021 as shown in the supplementary estimates number 5, 2020 to 2021, which form the schedule to the resolution. Head 80, Ministry of Transport, Works and Maintenance, in the amount of $3,969,000.
Honourable Member for St. Michael West Central.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In moving that Head 80 Stand Park, there are two matters we wish to address this afternoon. One, the provision for supplementary funding in respect of the sanitizing of public washrooms in the bus terminals and the sanitizing of public transport vehicles. Madam Chair, we are seeking here to continue the program, you will recall, leading up to the COVID period, that the government undertook as a matter of policy a decision to ensure that in a pre- and post-COVID environment, that our buses and terminals, of course, were sanitized. This, the government felt, would have reduced the spread of the COVID-19 pandemic, and the government set out and implemented this program going back to April 5th. Now, the program was intended to come to an end on June the 26th, but we're all aware of the existing pandemic globally, as also here in Barbados. And the government sought to continue the program, and the vote this afternoon, the provision, this afternoon, is to extend the program for an additional period to conclude at the end of October. And the House is asked to approve a sum of $85,000 for this specific program. Madam Chair, I don't think we need to go into a lot of detail in respect of this matter, except to say that we have 17 general workers who have been engaged in this program since its inception, and we wish to continue with that program through to October. Of course, events may not change depending on the consequences of the pandemic. But we took the initial measure to maintain public health and public safety in respect of this measure. And we're inviting the Honourable House to approve this resolution. The second part of the sums requested has to do with the flood alleviation works at Emerton and Murphy Pasture. Madam Chair, you will recall that way back in 2001, there was a study done in the New Orleans area, which also encompassed the Emerton area. And in that study, it highlighted a number of concerns regarding flooding. It also highlighted other aspects of a flood alleviation program that were necessary to contain and reduce flooding in the area. The government back in 2018, faced with storm waters and other matters, entered into discussions with the residents and a plan to improve to improve the drainage situation at Emerton Lane. And as a result of the discussions, the government continued its commitment there to the residents. And we agreed, after several site visits with the officials of the ministry, to ensure that we have a comprehensive plan to alleviate flooding in the Emerton, Chapman Lane area and Murphy's Pasture area. Madam Chair, we have had several site visits, including visits by the Prime Minister, of course, and ministry officials. And the works that we are undertaking are absolutely necessary to improve the state of affairs in that area. I can only tell you that if you were to take a visit in the area and you were to see, for example, the stagnant water, and the residents complain about the stagnant water, which obviously contributes to the breeding of mosquitoes. You also have a situation where it was almost impossible for some residents. And to compound it, you also have a situation when you have significant storm waters flowing through the area. You run the risk of undermining the foundations of several houses in the area. You also have the compounded problem of flooding, as I alluded to earlier. So the plan essentially is to ensure that we complete a stormwater retention pond. We also have to remove the ponding that exists at 3rd Avenue Chapman Lane. We are also going to reconstruct some drainage in the area. And when I say reconstruct, if you're familiar with the area, Madam Chair, currently there is a very small drainage flow. As a result, when you have the storm waters coming off Barby's Hill, Mason Hall Street, flowing through that area, because of that heavy, the velocity of water coming through that area, it creates a problem. Because if you look at the slope, it is relatively flat, so to allow the water to flow through as it should, it doesn't, and it remains stagnant. So we are improving upon the existing plan, and what we intend to do is to have a 2-meter canal, or drain, I should say, constructed adjacent to the existing one, and then we are going to improve the area around that pond. But what will happen is that we are going to increase the flow into the new drain, which would then flow all the way down to Lakes Folly, the Gaba Lodge complex, where we also intend, Madam Chair, to construct a new pump house. You would appreciate that the construction of a new pump house would allow the water to flow all the way through to assist us in reducing the flooding in that area. Of course, we have, in addition to the completion of retention pond, we are going to construct new wells and we are going to reconstruct existing wells in the upper Barbies Hill area. We also intend to reconstruct and to have phase 2 of the Emerton drain, which runs from Chapman, like I said, all the way to Fontibel Road, reconstructed, as well as the one that leads from Fontibel to the Chauffeur Car Park. The provision of a new pump house at Emerton versus a wider storm drain from Emerton to Chapman Lane would also, like I said, help us in reducing the flooding in that area. But Madam Chair, we've gone and we've had extensive consultations with the residents. We met with them on several occasions. Of course, I can tell you that the residents are very pleased that at long last that they will have a new drain, and obviously the works that we intend to do there will go beyond drainage. For example, we intend to reconstruct the road at Emerton, because that is another area which does not allow, because of the slope, does not allow the water to flow, and there's enormous settlement within that community. And again, with heavy rainfall in the area, again, it undermines the foundation of homes in that area. So we are going to reconstruct a road in that area, and we are going to slope it. And the engineers are busy at work. Madam Chair, if you had to go to the site now, you will see men and women hard at work improving the facility. We've also taken an additional step where we have engaged members of the community to participate in the rebuilding of the infrastructure in that area. And the community involvement has paid substantial dividends, because those who are working and those who are living in the community, we are giving them an opportunity as well to work on that project. We intend, and we have commenced, to have a 2-shift system, because you will well imagine that we are in the hurricane season. And to avoid significant flooding in the area, we have an opportunity, almost like a race against the clock, to ensure that this work is done, but done in such a way that it does not undermine the foundations in the area. And of course, we don't have stagnant water and mosquitoes impacting the residents in the community. So we are going to have a 2-shift system in operation to get the works completed within short time. It is a pilot project, Madam Chair, and based on the success of this project, the government intends, obviously, to do similar works in other communities all across Barbados in this respect. I should also advise the House that we are going to improve street lighting in the area as well. And to that end, we have the ministry has made contact with the Barbados Light and Power Company to ensure that we have adequate lighting in that area, and also you can say south of that area as well if you go into the New Orleans section. Again, we've discussed this with the residents. The residents are very pleased that we will have improved lighting. But, Madam Chair, the most significant aspect of this policy is that this government, this Barbados Labour Party government, has set a plan in place to help those who are in need of their assistance and who over time, Madam Chair, have suffered. And we are bringing relief to those areas, and especially on this pilot program in the city of Bridgetown. I think it makes a lot of difference. I myself have been down there on no less than 3 occasions, and I have observed the works in progress, and I really want to take this opportunity as well to thank all those workers involved in the rehabilitation effort there. I want to also thank the representatives and officials of the Ministry of Transport, Works and Water Resources for spending sometimes 12, 14 hours on the job, especially the senior officials who are working diligently on behalf of the residents in this area. Like I said, Madam Chair, this is a start, but I think it's a move in the right direction. And the funds requested to assist us in this program will go a long way to improve flood mitigation in the area and to ensure that the residents, like all of those in Barbados who wish to live in an area free of flooding, and to assist those who, when there are substantial rainfall in an area, would have to abandon their homes. We want to ensure that those living in such communities remain in a state of comfort. And we want to ensure that those persons who, like all of us who pay taxes, that they too see the benefit of their tax dollar being spent, and wisely so, in their communities. So, Madam Chair, I don't want to detain the House for too long, but I believe that this resolution to fund $3.969 million in works will go a long way in improving the situation in the Chapman Lane, Emerton, Murphy pasture area. There's a lot of work to be done, and the agencies are busy at work, and we will work hard, and we will complete this project in short time. Of course, Madam Chair, it is also my view that when such works are completed, that we report to this honorable place to let the people know how their money was spent, if we complete it on time, and what we've done in the area. But I can safely say that the residents are on board. They appreciate the works that we are executing on their behalf. And I want to say a great thank you to a big thank you, I should say, to the Ministry of Finance for obviously approving such works for us, because it will go a long way in flood mitigation efforts. And with those few words, Madam Chair, I beg that Head 80 in the amount of 3.969 million stand part.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you very much, ma'am. And might I say, again, congratulations to the honourable member who last spoke on his recent elevation to the Cabinet of Barbados. Last time I said so, he was not physically present. I'm happy to hear his voice in this first instance as the one responsible for the portfolio of transport and water resources. I would encourage him to be as forthcoming during his presentations to this chamber, as forthcoming with information as his predecessor was, so that the public of Barbados could be sufficiently informed. And I heard very clearly his commitment so to do, with specific reference to these works. When they're done, the House will be updated as to what went into the project and the improvements done, etc. I encourage him to do so generally, so that Parliament can be properly informed, the people of Barbados made fully aware. Now, just to make these couple of comments, I heard mention of Murphy Pasture and a whole number of places, and I want to draw very early to the attention of this minister in his first weeks on the job, that as parliamentary representative Michael West, I had asked of his predecessor that a look be taken at a couple of areas in St. Michael West which are overdue for attention. One is a drain that runs the length of Bridge Gap, bordering St. Michael Northwest and St. Michael West. It is the usual runoff drain by the side of the road. It is a rather deep one, and large sections of it, Madam Chair, are uncovered. I insist that it poses a clear and present danger to vehicular traffic. It poses a danger to especially elderly pedestrians. It is a deep drain. Obviously, it has some covering in spots to allow people to access from Bridge Gap into the adjacent areas. But it runs the length of Bridge Gap, which is some distance from Bridge Gap right down to Goodland Main Road, and it is largely uncovered. And it is, in fact, a very deep gutter. I believe a need exists for a look to be taken at it, perhaps with a view to putting in the type of covering that could be easily taken up and address matters of drainage when from time to time that becomes necessary. But if it remains like that, we're courting disaster. We've had incidents in the past where vehicles have gone in there. Lots of school children also use this place, and there's a heavy passage of vehicle transiting from Black Rock Main Road, Shoebridge Gap into Goodland and vice versa. So I draw that to the attention of the Honourable Minister. There's also a drainage problem which has persisted at Greenwich Road on Hinesbury Road. It's a very bad, it's a messy situation. The escape of sewage is very evident. The odor is awful. It is in the residential community, and there are problems with escaping sewage, problems with odors, also problems with drainage when there is shower activity as well, rainfall. This has also been drawn to the attention of former Minister of Public Works and Transport. I think the drainage unit, subsequent to that, took a look at it. But residents continue to complain. It has been there for years. It runs, it stretches for a distance from the old Hinesbury, from the new Hinesbury School, right through School Road, past the old Hinesbury School, which is now the Clyde Gollop shelter, runs into Greenwich Road, and it feeds into a basin that connects to the Headley Land project. Now, previous administration under former Minister of Public Works, we were able to address that massive problem of flooding in Headley Land. Headley Land was probably the worst area of Barbados known for flooding in those times. And contrary to suggestions of many, some with technical experience, who were of the view that it could not be addressed, the administration, last administration of the Barbados Labour Party, between 1999, 2002, 3, we were able to address that, had that problem substantially fixed. There's a massive 20-foot wide canal that runs from Roebuck Street right up into Bank Hall. It ends, phase 1 does, at the bottom of Taylor Gap in Bank Hall. It had been anticipated that there would have been a phase 2 that would have carried the project beyond Taylor Gap through Skeet Road, through Downey Avenue, and into Holligan Avenue. It's a fairly long distance. You're talking about essentially going from the middle of Bank Hall right towards the back of the All Souls Church. This is a long distance that stretches through residential area, still prone to very bad experiences when there's heavy rainfall. And though the worst part of it was addressed, the second phase was never entered upon. And I would invite the attention of the minister to that as well when he gets the opportunity. I should acknowledge that I called him a few days ago with reference to the Greenwich Road problem. I didn't get him on the phone immediately, but I will be honest to suggest, and very quickly, he was very responsive because he returned the call twice, I think, on the next day. And we are yet to talk, and that's my feeling rather than his. So I appreciate the ready audience available to me, and I would like to chat with him with respect to that, because this is a misery for the people who live in this place. Now, I have to ask, with reference, now I'm on my feet, to these electric buses that are on display as we drive along Roebuck Street. I hear that there's several of them parked in St. Philip as well. That's scheduled for rollout. I thought I saw one on the road yesterday, or the day before, I might be wrong, but I thought so, plying this route here. But my immediate concern is to the financial arrangements around these buses. If the minister is in a position to say, I asked about this some time ago, and if the information had been given and I missed it, I apologize, but I don't recall hearing it. So what are the financial arrangements around the acquisition of these buses? What's the cost? Who's paying the bill? And if there is any indebtedness on the part of the government of Barbados, to whom Are we indebted, and to what extent are we indebted? If the minister is in the position to give us that this afternoon, we're happy to hear. If not, look forward to hearing that at soonest convenient moment for him. That's all, ma'am.
Thank you. Honourable Member for St. Michael West Central.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Leader of the Opposition raised 3 points. In respect of the drain at Bridge Gap, yes, we are aware of that area, and we are obviously, like I said in my earlier presentation, we are seeking to replicate the Murphy Pasture, Emerton Lane type project through all communities in Barbados, and certainly that area will not be lost upon this government. Although we have to manage our resources, especially in a post-COVID environment where revenues obviously are not where they ought to be because of the global pandemic and economic fallout, this government and this ministry will do whatever is necessary to ensure the health and safety of residents in the area. So I thank the Leader of the Opposition for drawing that matter to attention. Like I said earlier, we are aware of it, and we will, in some short time, be addressing that matter. Regarding the issue of drainage at Greenwich Road, it has been drawn to the ministry's attention. In fact, the Prime Minister also drew that matter to our attention, and we are at work dealing with that matter. The drainage unit has been directed to remedy that situation, and we are hard at work with a potential solution for the area. Of course, I will commit to the Leader of the Opposition that once we have commenced works and we have a plan, that this minister and his ministry will be in a position to communicate to the parliamentary representative for the area in respect of the matters at Greenwich Road. But yes, it is a matter that is engaging our attention. Regarding electric buses, I don't want to say too much. There will be an opportunity probably within a week or so, and I intend to address the matter of electric buses. Safe to say that the government of Barbados is not indebted to anyone for the purchase of the 33 electric buses in Barbados. I don't want to go into too much detail, but I will also say this. The buses that are parked at Weymouth and elsewhere, the buses are being commissioned. There's also an element of driver training because, and I say this because I've had the experience of seeing electric buses in operation. It is not, you don't drive an electric vehicle as you would drive a diesel or other petrol-based vehicles. And so there's an element of training that we are undertaking. The bus representatives from BYD are in Barbados, and they're executing the training. So once the training is completed, the buses are going to be commissioned, and the buses will be formally handed over to the Transport Board. I will also, I heard an aside, and I will also lay out within 1 week's time, how those electric buses are going to be deployed across Barbados. I am going to tell you how much money the government of Barbados paid for the buses. I will also tell you how much money we spent in the electrical infrastructure. And I will also give this House the assurance that we will answer any questions put to us in respect of the electric buses, because we have absolutely nothing to hide. And I say this to you, to the Leader of the Opposition, that I serve as chairman of the Transport Board. And it was under my watch as chairman of the Transport Board, reporting to the then Minister of Transport Works and Maintenance, the Honourable Member for Christchurch West, and also his minister, the Honourable Member for St. Lucie. And we saw that project collectively as a team through. I will also tell you that under my watch, as chairman of the Transport Board, that we dedicated the Chief Operating Officer of the Transport Board to spearhead the implementation of the electric bus project. And there were a number of representatives across government, including the Government Electrical Engineering Department, that served on that committee, and officials of the Barbados Light and Power as well, because we had an inclusive team. And I can tell you that they delivered the project, and the project has been delivered on time. Even the charging stations, Madam Chair, that you see there, the charging stations are in good condition. So I will have an opportunity to speak to the whole issue of electric buses, the deployment, and the costs. And I will also tell you that we went one step further too, and we ensured that we paid our way for everything. So nobody can accuse the Transport Board or this Barbados Labour Party of any other practice that perhaps would have been associated with the former government. And I can assure you, we paid our way for everything at the Transport Board. But I don't want to deal with the Transport Board on this occasion because I know that the Leader of Opposition wants me to go there. But I'm happy to go there with him, and I will bring the facts to the public domain. So, Honourable Member Sir Michael West?
Yeah, exactly as you should have done.
Honourable Member, I will say to you that yes, we will have an opportunity to put the facts in the public domain. So I think that those those responses would address the concerns by the Leader of the Opposition. And I would like on this occasion, once again, to thank the ministry officials, thank the contractors who are also assisting us. I really want to thank the residents for their cooperation. They have worked with us, and I'm happy for their continued cooperation on this particular project at Emerton and Murphy Pasture. I think it says a lot when you have a government that is responsive to the public, a government and ministers who remain connected to the people, especially during their plight. And we will not leave any stone unturned in respect of ensuring that the works to be concluded at Murphy Pasture and Emerton Lane, that those works are completed in short time to ensure that the residents live in peace and in comfort and without fear that their homes will be flooded, and without fear, Mr. Speaker, that the road infrastructure will continue to undermine their homes. And on that, Madam Chair, I beg to move that Head 80 stamp part.
Question is that Head 80 in the amount of $3,969,000 stamp part. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 15, Cabinet Office, in the amount of $1,166,504.
Honourable member for Christchurch East Central.
Madam Chair, Head 15 and 31 are related, but the money's being issued, being requested here, as you would appreciate. The original intent this year was to do the census in Barbados, but obviously COVID would have interrupted those plans, which are critical, and as you know, the census will be done next year. But given all that would have taken place in the context of COVID-19, the restrictions, the protocols, and health, the National ID project is a project, that was also intended to be completed this year, and therefore this is one of the transformational elements that this government intends to see through in order to ensure that, as we will realize now, COVID will be with us for some time. And therefore, the National ID project, in collaboration with the other work of the government in terms of the digital payment systems, would allow for easier transactions to be done, not just of citizens with government, but we'll be able to have a lot more transactions take place within the context of the private sector. So the money is being requested here relates to the re-registration efforts of the EBC of citizens, which will support the issuance of the digital ID project, which will be carried out by the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology, which will come in the next head. But this is critically important at this time, Madam Chair, especially in a COVID environment, and it is one of those transformational elements that the government believes, one, meets certainly the needs of citizens in the 21st century, but obviously in a public health emergency would allow for citizens to be able to access services from government as well as within the context of the private sector. You would appreciate, we've seen, for example, the NAS has now started to accelerate its payments of short-term benefits digitally. We want to be able to disperse a number of the grants, benefits that government engages with citizens digitally. But within the context, Madam Chair, of truly operating in the 21st century, it is critically important that we get this project to fruition as quickly as possible. And the role of the EBC in this instance would be to re-register persons such that that information then can be used to be able to issue new ID cards for citizens. So it's not just a simple replacement of the blue card that you may have in your wallet, but certainly to be able to ensure that your identity and your ability to transact business either with government or any financial institution, any arrangement that requires you to satisfy your identity, you will appreciate, Madam Chair, that more often than not, when you go places, you often have to fill forms with your first name, last name, date of birth, all kinds of things. It is anticipated that at the end of this project, that will not be necessary to be able to access services from wherever you go. So the money is being requested here, as I said, is to do the re-registration effort, and then therefore put us in a position to be able to issue the new ID cards, which will be digital, and be able to put Barbados, in a sense, in the 21st century as it relates to the management of ID and the services that can be accessed from that. And so, with those few words, Madam Chair, I beg to move that head 15 stand part.
Any comments? Okay.
You're right.
Nobody's speaking.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I beg to move that head 15 stand part.
Question is that head 15 in the amount of $1,166,504 stand part. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 31, Ministry of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology, in the amount of $9,240,013.
Madam Chair.
Members, this is Grace Church East Central.
All right, Madam Chair, as I would have indicated earlier, the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology will now be the executing agency with respect to the issuance of the new national digital ID. And the money is being requested here. One is to acquire the smart cards and the infrastructure and software to support the management of the ID system, as well as being able to ensure that we have a project team in place dedicated specialist services to be able to do this. You would recall that initially when we voted the current estimates, a sum of monies were placed within the vote of the Electoral and Boundaries Commission in order to be able to procure the cards. And we will be able to, so what we are doing here is to vote some monies now for the Ministry of Innovation and Smart Technology, Science and Smart Technology, to be able to manage that project. And so therefore the funds that were previously voted under the EBC will now be frozen to be able to reallocate within the context of MIST, to be able to procure the items, get the digital infrastructure and software and the platform up and running in order to be able to ensure then that the project can be executed in tandem, so that between the EBC doing the re-registration of the citizens, MIST will be doing the IT support and the rollout with respect to the supplying of the cards to citizens, which will be fully supported and either as a physical card, but also equally, Madam Chair, the capability of having your ID associated with your mobile phone if you so desire, so that the prospect of you having to need to have a physical card will not be the same, will not be the same as it is now. And therefore the project is intended, as I said, to transform how we manage ID, how we access services, and this is absolutely critical, especially in this COVID environment, to be able to do transactions, and we know that we can do so safely as a matter of not just data protection for you as an individual, but it means that we can trust the information that is being shared between entities such that you can certify the identification of individuals in this context. And so the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology will now be doing, they had a series of meetings with the EBC, and the joint committee resolved that MIST should be the one doing the actual technical implementation of the project, and they will work with the Electoral and Boundaries Commission to be able to execute this project over the course of the coming few months. So Barbadians will be better able to not just access services for government, but certainly within the context of a number of private transactions that often require you to certify or validate the presentation of your credentials. At the end of this process, then we should be in a much better position to execute transactions in the country, and to do so with certainty should certainly reduce, where possible, elements of fraud with respect to that. And we look forward to the implementation of this in order to put certainly citizens and its engagement with government at a completely different level. It is also intended, Madam Chair, not as I said before, not just benefits, but certainly issues relating to your driver's license and all those other pieces of information that we normally have, so that all of these things are intended, as it relates to ID, should be associated with the national ID. And so, Madam Chair, with those few words, I beg to move that Head 31 stand part. Beg second.
Honourable Leader of the Opposition.
Thank you, ma'am. Just simply to say that I don't know that the Honourable Minister has sufficiently satisfied me as to why we would shift this responsibility from the Electoral and Boundaries Commission to the Ministry of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology, because it has implications for all kinds of things, including the electoral process. There's still almost $5 million, which will be paid in professional services, which would suggest that the Ministry of Information, Science and Technology will still have to contract professional people, technical people, to help to bring this project to realization. And could that money not have been as well used or better used by the Electoral Boundaries Commission? I don't know. I'm simply saying I don't think the minister has fully satisfied the case for switching from one entity to another when you consider what the project entails fully. I'm not suggesting that I'd vote against this. I'm simply saying that I think the case perhaps could better be put as to why this ministry, as opposed to the previous arrangement, especially when you consider that half of the money is still going to professional services, which perhaps could be contracted by either entity.
Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central.
Yes, Madam Chair. As I said, the project was intended to be executed this year, and as I indicated, sum of money was placed initially at the beginning of this financial year with respect to the purchase of the cards by the EBC. The actual technical implementation is being done by the Ministry of Innovation, Science, and Smart Technology. Now, the EBC's responsibility is still to register citizens in the way that we normally do at the moment. However, because of the introduction of the new digital ID, all of the technical work that is required, out of the consultations, it was agreed that MIS should manage the project with respect to the technical implementation of the work, and therefore, MIS being responsible for government's digital pathway, if you like, they felt it was critical for them to be able to do that. Now, the issuance of the ID cards and all of that will still happen with respect to the EBC, but it's just MIS is taking the responsibility for executing the technical implementation, which means, as it says here, they will acquire the cards, put in place the national ID system, which, as you can see, PBS Systems and the partner in trust data card are the two entities responsible and contracted by tender to be able to do the implementation, and therefore we hope to be able to execute this project certainly before the end of the financial year, in order to allow us to be able to oh, sorry.
Honourable Leader of Opposition.
With all due respect, ma'am, this is simply repetition. It doesn't explain, it doesn't respond to the query I raised. Half of this money is still going to professional services, and I believe in that contractual context, the bulk of the work will be done. So I shifted from the Electoral Boundaries Commission to MIS. I don't hear the explanation coming through to satisfy the query. I'm hearing repetition of what was said before.
Honourable Member for Christchurch East Central.
Madam Chair, perhaps I wasn't as clear as I thought it was. The Ministry of Innovation, Science and Smart Technology is responsible for government's digital rollout, not the Electoral and Boundaries Commission. The MIS has the capacity to ensure that this project, as envisaged, can be delivered simply because they're responsible for government's digital platform. And therefore, the Electoral and Boundaries Commission, which does not now have such capability, and this is a decision that was made in consultation with them with respect to what they have done, agreed that MIS will be able to drive the technical digital delivery, whilst the Electoral and Boundaries Commission will still manage the issuance of the cards as part of the re-registration process, which we just spoke to earlier. So it is just a matter of horses for courses, because if we want to get this thing done, then we have to ensure that it is managed by those persons who are most competent to be able to do it. So the professional fees to which the Honourable Member refers is simply to engage the companies who will do the technical implementation of the thing. Okay. With those few words, Madam Chair, I beg to move that Head 31 stand part.
The question is that Head 31 in the amount of $9,240,013 stand part. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. Aye. All honourable members against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 34, Ministry of Finance, Economic Affairs and Investment, in the amount of $1,275,000 $750.
Madam Chair, the sums of money being requested here are to support the technical assistance being enjoyed by the Customs Department from UNCTAD. You would recall, Madam Chair, that when we came to office, the Asikuda World Project was marred in much delay with respect to the move from customs into the BRA since 2014, and nothing had happened for those 4 years that up until we came to office of any significance. We engaged UNCTAD last year in March. I recall we came to this chamber and we indicated that we would have Asikuda World implemented by September of 2019. I am happy to report to this chamber that Asikuda World has now been implemented in Barbados. However, part of the other reforms with respect to customs are still ongoing, and if you may recall, under the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Plan, we crafted that out of there were three technical assistance missions that were commissioned by the previous government on the Customs Department and what was needed to modernize the Customs Department. When we came to office, we asked for a fourth just to ensure that we were covered, and it is on that basis that we crafted the customs part of the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Program, and UNCTAD, which is the United Nations Conference for Trade and Development, which you know we will be hosting their conference here in Barbados next year, has been invaluable on the ground with respect to helping Barbados at a time where the Customs Department had indeed, during what was the anticipated transition into the Barbados Revenue Authority, had their IT section in terms of the post removed, and we have been relying on UNCTAD in their capacity to be able to help us with not just the implementation of Asikuda World, but in certainly the training with respect to that. The modernization of customs is a critical part of the Barbados Economic Recovery and Transformation Program. We are very grateful for UNCTAD for allowing this extension with respect to the technical assistance, because we believe that this will help to change the trajectory with respect to the operations of the Customs Department. We've already seen a lot of engagement, Madam Chair, with respect to, in a sense, retraining and retooling of all of the customs brokers, the ships agents, all those persons who are involved in the logistics trade, because whilst Barbadians may order something and it appears, they may, in the past, they may have gone down to Shed 2, or they may have gone to the airport, but the reality is that between when you order something, you want to get it to Barbados, there are a number of persons who are responsible with respect to ensuring that the logistics happen in the way that it should. And we have been relying on UNCTAD to help with the training and the support of a number of those persons, as well as the training within the context of the Customs Department. And all of this is well documented within all four of those technical assistance missions that were done by CARTAC here on the Customs Department. And therefore, these monies here being requested is to further support the work in terms of the modernization of the Customs Department. It is critical because it is what is going to help Barbados to focus not just on the revenue component, but I can say to you that a number of the other reforms as it relates to customs are already bearing fruit, particularly on the national security side and equally on the trade facilitation side as well. And therefore, to continue the reform of the Customs Department, which will help to bolster the revenue of government, COVID notwithstanding, Madam Chair, it is anticipated that with these reforms completed, that we'll be able to see a modern customs department. We will see a modern functioning of the logistics trade in Barbados. A lot of the inefficiencies that we've seen within the systems over the years have been reduced, or if not eliminated, in terms of paper. So if you ever visited any of the customs shed 2 in the past, you would have seen reams of, first of all, you've been going from multiple points within the system, lots of paper involved in the process, and all of that has been eliminated now with respect to the implementation of Asikuda World. And therefore, the government is being consistent with respect to being able to modernize a lot of our systems. The next phase of this particular extension of the technical assistance is to onboard within the context of Asikuda World, the digital payments element, so that the entire process, so whilst at the moment agents can submit and have the entries cleared, they still have to physically go to customs to pay. Part of this extension is to ensure that the support for onboarding the digital payments will mean that customs broker, ships agent, whoever is involved within the context of clearing items, the port, whoever, Madam Chair, will be able to do so without having to leave wherever you are to go to customs to pay. And that will be a critical step in terms of being able to modernize. So over the course of the last year or so, certainly since September of last year, a lot has happened with respect to the Asikuda World and its function. I am happy to also report, Madam Chair, that a number of government agencies have also been onboarded with respect to Asikuda World in terms of whether it's port health, plant quarantine, commerce, the BRA is on, the central bank is on, and a number of other government agencies who interface with the system so that people don't have to go to multiple agencies. And we will continue those works such that effectively we are forming the base for what that facilitation truly means with respect to government agencies. So different government agencies involved in assessing not just customs, but other government agencies are involved in the clearance process, and therefore they too are on board with respect to Asikuda World, so that the government is responding to the long-standing complaints of the private sector in terms of efficiency. I must say to you, Madam Chair, that whilst the government has been moving forward, we've been dragging and pulling the private sector along, because whilst for a lot of years people were saying the government just ain't doing anything, we are now moving ahead swiftly, and it is up to the private sector and citizens and the persons involved to ensure that they stay up to date, which means training in terms of enhancing their skills, which is important, because if I'm paying you, Madam Chair, to clear my items, don't tell me that they're in the port for 30 days or whatever the case is, because that is inexcusable. We've seen elements and it is part of what has seemingly built into the system, where people were using the inefficiency of government, in a sense, really, to either store items in the port, whatever the case is, which is we are focusing on ensuring that the efficiency actually reaches the consumer. And this is going to be very important, because everybody has a role to play with respect to the logistics trade. The government, in this instance, led by Customs, working with the number of the other government agencies, we have worked hard over the course of the last year to upgrade what we are doing, to better deploy the staff that we have. This is going to be a particularly important element, because we, in the same way we were just discussing the National Digital ID, we are implementing, the digital payments across government. This will be a critical element with respect to our ability to manage trade, to deal with the national security issues, as well as ensure that our revenue collection is as efficient as possible. It is quite data intensive, but we believe that we haven't been the first to introduce Assecuda Plus. It was unfortunate that we were the last in the region to still be using it, but we are confident that having been now the first country in the region now to onboard a number of other government agencies and to again be a trendsetter, that we have to push through the remainder of the reforms in order to ensure that we put Barbados back on the track so that we can be competitive and not be mired in that notion that we cannot get things done. Madam Chair, I abhor the fact that over the last decade, there was a notion that there was something called implementation deficit disorder. And I've said to the Customs Department, as well as a number of the other officials, I cannot accept that. We have successfully implemented Assecuda World. We are working through a number of other matters within the context of the Ministry of Finance. It's happening across government, because we have to believe that we can get things done, we can get it done in a timely manner, and where we need assistance, we get the assistance, we get the cross-training in order to ensure that we can move forward in a sustainable way. And so, Madam Chair, I beg to move that Head 34 stand part.
Question is that Head 34 stand par. All honourable members in favour, please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 75, Ministry of Housing, Lands and Rural Development, in the amount of $15 million.
Honourable member for St. Christchurch West.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. This sum of money is to be used primarily to rejuvenate some disused buildings that have been left abandoned, unused for quite some time, some of them for a number of years. And what we've recognized, Madam Chair, is that if we were able to bring these buildings back into utilization and into an habitable state, that we would be able to reduce that large number that government pays every year in rental for various office spaces across the length and breadth of this country. So what the ministry started to do is to start to identify numbers of buildings which were not being used or utilized effectively, to go and cost what it would be to bring those buildings back into use, and then to start to look to see how quickly we could get those buildings back into utilization. So we came up with about 18 buildings across Barbados that were not being effectively utilized. Welfare Department on Country Road, another school meals department on Country Road, Block C at the Garrison St. Michael, the British American Insurance Company building at Magazine Lane, the Ministry of Commerce, former Ministry of Commerce building at Reef Road, St. Michael, the former Barbados Water Authority headquarters in the Pines, St. Michael, Clico building, former Clico building at Walron Street. There was also a beachfront community center at Bathsheba. The Worthing Corporate Center, this building, which we're in fact using part of it now. Sanitation Service Authority at Vaucluse. The British American Insurance Company building at Bishop's Court Hill. Bayview Plaza, which is the Oystins, Christchurch. Block B, the Garrison, St. Michael. Bay Street Boys School, and part of the municipal building at Oystins, Christchurch. So what we decided to do is to go in, assess these buildings, see how we could quickly get those back in, and based on the square footage that we have there, how much rent we'd be able to save if we were to get those buildings back into use and then transfer all the agencies that would be able to accommodate them. And what we found is, based on the square footage, we would be saving approximately $3,448,970.74 every year in rental that we are paying for the equivalent amount of space that we use. So therefore, we came to the decision that it would, of course, be a no-brainer to get those buildings back into use, because it would do a number of things. It would reduce the rental cost to government. It would produce economic activity. It would put people back to work. And let's get real, Madam Chair. There are a lot of people in Barbados that are not working. There are a lot of people in Barbados that are having great difficulty finding a job because the hotels are not working as they used to, and all of these service industries that surround the hotel industry are also under significant strain. And we recognize this. So as a government, we've made a decision that we have to find capital works. We have to engage in capital projects and put people back to work. And that is an absolute paramount important program of this administration, because people have to get back to work. And if they're not working in the tourism sector, we have to retool, we have to retrain, we have to reorganize, and we have to get people working as quickly as possible. You know, Madam Chair, it hurt my heart to see the governor of the central bank say that we're in recession, which everybody knew about, but the quantum of it in the 24-25% range is frightening. It really is. Because, you know, when Lehman Brothers crashed, we had, I think it was a 9% drop. And that had an effect on this country and this economy for 10 years. Lost decade, 9%. We now double in that. Never before seen that kind of drop. And we have to get every single person's hand to the plow. We have to get as many people working in the productive sectors as we can. We have to get this economy firing on all cylinders again. And if this is a start, this might be $15 million. The number, yes, is big for some people, it's small for a country. But it is an amount that we need. It is that seed that we need to plant in this economy that will grow and that will provide fruit and employment for the people of this country and help us to see our way out of this problem that we're in today. So, Madam Chair, I know that this will be something good because it will put back disused buildings. It will put people back to work, and it will be a light at the end of the tunnel so that we can get our people working again and to give them confidence and give them that hope that Barbados can get back on track. But, Madam Chair, I can't talk about disused buildings without talking about some disused buildings that were up in Parish land. The former member for St. Philip North, your constituency, Madam Chair, he oversaw 111 disused houses. 111. A project that started in 2010. And people didn't get keys till 2017, 2018. For 8 years, 7 years, 6 years, houses were locked up. Deteriorating. Termites take over. And you know, Madam Chair, I opened the paper the other day and I see the former member for St. Philip North say he arrived up there in his professional capacity. Well, I thought he was coming with a hammer, a saw, and some tile cement. Because the only professional capacity he could be arriving with is to fix the houses that he left there for years. But that's the only professional capacity he could be there at. But he can be there in no other kind of professional capacity. None at all. You know, Madam Chair, there was once a fireman, a fire officer. And there's a true story, happened in the United States, I think it was Arkansas. And that fireman decided that he was bored. And he used to go and light fires. And then turn around and call the fire service that he was working at to go out the same fire that he liked. Out in the same fire that he liked. But that reminded me exactly of what the former member of St. Philip North was doing. Well, he lighted the fire. He lighted the fire. He caused all the problems up there. For years, left those places unoccupied. No maintenance of them whatsoever. And then now that we are trying to move 9 people, they have 117 houses up there. And we're trying to move 9 people and make them safe and secure from a location that they're at risk from their health, from a location that they're at risk from their safety. And we went through and we looked at the houses and we put in good quality houses up there equal to the ones that are there. And for him to rush up there, well, he reminded me of he now come to out the fire that he liked in the first place. You know, if it wasn't so sad, it would be comical. If it was not so sad. You know, and Madam Chair, I know that you can't speak in this debate, so I can speak for you. For him to do that, he should go and hide his face in shame and embarrassment. The disrespect that he's showing to the people of this country. They forget him. They have not forgotten him. And they're just waiting. They're just waiting. Just like how they was waiting in 2018 for the Democratic Party, and that is where the Barrister Party went, all 30 seats. But they're waiting for him if he decides to show his face up there in St. Philip North again. And let me tell you, Madam Chair, I'm going to be up there walking with you. I'm going to be up there walking with you. And I will put all of my ability, all of my resources, all of my integrity to make sure that gentleman never graces the floor of Parliament again. Never. So, Madam Chair, let me just say this. This $15 million is a seed that will grow. This $15 million that will help us put some buildings back into use. But more important than that, it will put a number of people in this country back to work, give them hope, give them confidence, and give them faith in themselves. I'm obliged.
Thank you, Honourable Member. More than you think. Anybody else?
Beg to move the Head 75 Stamp Park.
Question is that Head 35
75.
has 75 in the amount of $15 million stamp part. All honourable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Head 87, Ministry of Education, Technological and Vocational Training, in the amount of $21,802,000.
Honourable member for St. Michael Southeast.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. This is not a short matter, but it is one that I believe touches on the hearts of all members. I will certainly be longer on this occasion than my colleagues. Ma'am, this supplementary is coming against a background where we would have had to close school from the 19th of March, shortly after about the 2 first cases had been recorded in this country for COVID-19. It came as a result of the closure, came as a result of concern for the safety of students, concern for the safety of our teachers, the unpredictable nature of COVID-19 and the uncertainties that would have befallen us at that point in time. As a consequence, we had to move as a ministry to emergency remote teaching. We referred to it as that, ma'am, because it was not the ideal situation where we would have been able to plan for online teaching, which would have given us a different dynamic. We had to basically equip our teachers quickly and our students to be able to work in an environment which was no longer face-to-face for their safety. That said, ma'am, we embarked on a project called G Suite for Education, where we invited private entities, individuals across Barbados to assist the Ministry of Education in being able to get devices to a number of our students. Now, we were not distinct from any other country across the world in that everybody else was trying to get devices, and there was obviously a global shortage, just like there was a shortage in relation to ventilators and to other medical equipment that was necessary to fight this pandemic. That notwithstanding, I want to say thank you to all persons who would have contributed in some way, large or small, to being able to assist the ministry to ensure that students were able to have access to devices. We had to start to prioritize because obviously at that point in time, with limited resources coming in, we had to make decisions in terms of which students might have been able to take priority. Fortunately, with the help of the unions and our various stakeholders, we were able to successfully allow our Class 4 students who would have had priority on those devices as well to be able to go back into school to sit the common entrance examination. And within the next few weeks, the results of that examination will become known to the country and to those young men and women who would have had the opportunity to take the examination. Ma'am, the environment in which our students have had to grapple with this pandemic has been a difficult one. As I said, we've had pledges from a number of individuals and companies to assist with the devices, but we still have fallen short of what we would have wanted to achieve. The Prime Minister a few months ago indicated that government was committed to basically carrying some of the weight as well, and I'm very pleased this afternoon, ma'am, to indicate to the country that the Cabinet of Barbados, the Government of Barbados, has committed to the purchase of 20,000 tablets and laptops, which will make their way here over the course of the next couple of weeks to be able to be deployed across the educational system at both the nursery, primary, and the secondary level. Ma'am, the sum of 10 million has been committed for that particular project because that is the deposit that is necessary in order for us to be able to start the process of purchasing these devices. We're trying to ensure that we have at least 8,280 tablets and 13,105 laptops, which is a total of 21,385. The overall core cost is going to be around $14,131,605 US dollars. And the distribution of these devices, we're looking at laptops for our primary school teachers in the sum of 2,082. At the secondary level, those teachers will receive in the sum of 2,543. At the nursery school level, 200. There will also be the laptops for our secondary school students as well in the sum of 8,280. Now, ma'am, there are also devices already in the system. We would have deployed a number of those devices, and one of the things that will now have to take place is that while those devices were able to serve the purpose to get us through the last few weeks, there will obviously be a process where we're going to have to pull back some in order to make sure that students are properly equipped in a classroom with perhaps the same devices so that they're all able to learn at the same pace. It will also mean that as we try to source, that when they arrive, there will obviously be the usual mechanisms put in place to ensure that there are security codes, that they are tagged appropriately, and that all of the necessary security equipment is placed on the devices. One of the things too, ma'am, I want to just say that we obviously recognize that this is a significant investment. It is an investment which perhaps if persons had the foresight, as did the current Prime Minister when she was the Minister of Education, if everybody was on board at that time when we were talking about edutech, we would perhaps not have been here. We would perhaps have continued to be on the trajectory of countries like Singapore and others, ma'am, that have blazed a trail in terms of technology. Regrettably, we are doing now what perhaps we should have done several years ago, but nonetheless, we still have the type of leadership certainly at the helm that understands the importance of technology and that recognizes that the next generation of leaders, of workers within our country have to be equipped with the necessary tools if they are going to not only be able to give back to this country, ma'am, but also to be able to give back globally as well, and certainly regionally. So that said, ma'am, it is a major contribution. We have also said that, you know, to whom much is given, much is expected. In this first cohort of devices, we have said to parents simply, and to students, that there are some responsibilities that come with the investment into your education. And we've simply said, if we're going to invest these sums of monies, if people are going to donate their hard-earned money to be able to assist you to get an education, then we expect that you will enter into a loan arrangement with the Ministry of Education, that in the event that anything happens to the device, that there's obviously a fee that would be attached for any damage. And we've set out the appropriate contracts, and I'm pleased that parents have been quite receptive. We have had some students who have broken a few screens in the course of the last few weeks. And obviously there's nothing that we can do to really prevent damage to devices, but we really do caution both the students and the parents to try their best to protect these devices. Ma'am, we spend a lot of money on textbooks, and the reality is, as we are reviewing our approach to these devices that are coming in, we are presently in the process of looking at what would traditionally have been a textbook loan scheme, looking at how we can use technology now to be able to utilize these devices to have a number of books on these devices. And so that is the way the world is moving, where content is no longer a child with a heavy school bag walking on the road to catch a bus anymore, but really a compact device, a tablet or a laptop, being carried in their haversack and being able to take that to school, or in some cases having devices where there is easy connectivity in the household, that they're able to connect and download their work program so that they can continue their learning online. It therefore means, ma'am, that we are a bit closer to where we need to be in terms of the new start for the school term. Again, none of us have that crystal ball to know what will happen. We have extended the public health emergency, and as such, we are mindful that we are in a better position now in terms of the reopening of school than we would obviously have been back in March. We have built out the Harrison's Point facility thanks to the hard work of the member for the city and all of the healthcare professionals in that ministry. We have been able to ensure that we have adequate supply of equipment. We have brought in our medical personnel from Cuba and also from Ghana. And we therefore believe, ma'am, as a government, that we are in a better position to handle any outbreak or any additional cases that might face us over the course of the next couple weeks or months or even years, as the case may be. It therefore means that come September, we've announced a tentative date of the 21st of September, because, ma'am, we have to start somewhere. We have to position ourselves to let parents know as well that we are doing all the best that we can to ensure that school can start. We know it's been hard. We know it's been difficult for parents to have children home for this extended period. I'm sure, ma'am, you yourself have had to battle with your young one as well at home. And we are mindful that parents want to see their students and their children back in a structured environment, but we have to do so safely. So all of the protocols that we're going to have to put in place, that we put in place for the common entrance exam, the ministry is mindful that all of those protocols will have to be put in place. But we also recognize there will also have to be a type of blended approach to learning. And it will require that there may be some days where some students will have to go, or some morning periods or some afternoon periods, the details of which we are working through with our various stakeholders. But it does mean at the forefront of, I think, all of our minds is a commitment that we have to get our students back into a formal and structured arena for learning. And therefore, while we work out the kinks, I really want to say that we're asking the public really to be patient with us. There is no precedent for how to deal with COVID-19 or how to deal with devices coming into the system, but we are trying our best in the circumstances. It also means, ma'am, that when these devices come, again, we've recognized that our information technology coordinators as well will have to be retooled, retrained, repurposed, because it will no longer be the typical type of workload that is being requested of them to be able to do. Indeed, over the course of the last few weeks, they have had to, they've had their workload increased. They've had to respond to students and to teachers as quickly as they possibly could to ensure that all of the issues related to working online have been able to be ironed out. And we're mindful that the new dimension of the Ministry of Education will have to take into account a major thrust to ensure that our information technology coordinators are equipped with the necessary tools to be able to train and to repurpose the teachers within the system as well. So, ma'am, that is a component as it relates to program 271 in relation to the 10 million and what the 10 million is being used to be contributed towards. Ma'am, I have for the last 2 years continued to make a case in this place and every opportunity that I've gotten to be able to point out a number of the challenges that have met us as a government on coming to office in relation to the school plans. Last year, the Prime Minister would have increased the amount of monies that were allocated to the ministry. We were able to move from, I believe, 17 schools in the previous year to 35 schools in terms of the repairs to the domestic summer program. This year, ma'am, we are continuing on that same thrust. Back in the estimates of revenue and expenditure, the Prime Minister would have announced it that she was giving the Ministry of Education additional sums for the refurbishment of the school plants. And I'm pleased to say, ma'am, that we have already started some of the programs in terms of the domestic summer program. We've started to focus on what is considered phase 1, which is 31 nursery and primary schools. And the intention is that we will also be further completing another 33 projects during this period. The sum of 1.25 million, therefore, ma'am, is to top up what we already have, but to basically allow us to complete major and minor works at a number of our school plants. And these things range from environmental issues, it ranges from painting, it may range from refurbishments to the roof. There are a number of issues that have been neglected over the years, and I think all of us will know that if we allow even our own homes to not be subject to repairs and renovations from time to time, that in the long term we end up having to contribute significantly to the cost of the long-term renovations. There are a number of schools, ma'am, that under the 15 million that the Prime Minister would have allocated to the Ministry of Education, in addition to the normal funds, that we have basically decided to focus on some key schools, one of which is the St. Giles Primary School. There are significant roof repairs that have to be done. It will obviously entail, we're trying to get it done before the start of the term, but let me just say that at this point, the priority has to be able to remove the roof. And with the removal of the roof, I think those who know construction will appreciate that there will be other substantial repairs that will have to be done to the coral stone structure, which we cannot anticipate at this time. But the intention is to work around the clock to be able to have the roof removed, replaced. We're repairing the staff room as well as the principal's area and the floor, which has been termite infested as well. All of those things will also be removed. Ma'am, the other area for consideration under this program is also the Alma Parish School. I am determined that the promise that we made to this country that the Alma Parish School would come back into operation, that happens certainly under my tenure. And even if it doesn't happen under my tenure, that I am going to make sure that I lay the groundwork for anybody else who is to come to make sure that it happens. Because, ma'am, we as a Barbados Labour Party administration would have introduced this particular institution, having recognized that there were some students who were not necessarily academically inclined, but required an environment in which they could learn differently and they could adapt in a different way. And this institution was closed about 3 years ago, ma'am, without any consideration given by the former administration as to what would replace it. We had a number of young people who went through the Alma Parish School, who did great things and who have gone on to do great things as a result of the attention that was paid based on the structure that had been put in place by our administration. You know, ma'am, sometimes we close things and, you know, the key is not just to close, but it is to close and to have a follow-up plan in terms of how you are going to do things differently. And regrettably, from all that I have seen and read in relation to the closure of the Alma Parish School, I am totally satisfied that the last administration did not take into account the students who would have traditionally been going to the Alma Parish School. Children who in some cases have scored under 30% in the common entrance exam. And again, not that the passage of Maths and English is testimony to these students' ability, but ma'am, it was a failure to recognize that everyone is not academically inclined and that we have a lot of students out there who learn differently and a number of students who have abilities that we need to now tap into. We have a large plant at Alma Parish. There are some old buildings on the plant. My first priority is to ensure, because I intend to do this in phases, is to ensure that we are in a position to renovate the first block as you enter the premises, because that is the one that is perhaps in the best condition. But there are other buildings which are, again, stone buildings that will present some issues for us, and some will have to be demolished. And then we will be able to go back to the Ministry of Finance, hopefully when things pick up, and we will be able to be in a position to expand that facility. Thank you, Member for St. Thomas. The intention, ma'am, is that this facility will be properly staffed, and a paper will come to Cabinet soon in relation to that. But the key is that we have to recognize that we must provide a facility, a location for students to be able to meet their fullest potential. And I think what has happened, what we have seen over the course of the last couple of years, is that students who have not performed well in the common entrance exam have ended up in 1 or 2 or 3 secondary schools across the island and have ended up causing a lot of disruption as a result of being misunderstood and not having the requisite support systems in place. Ma'am, it is something that we have to change. It is something that I am committed to changing. And so long as the Ministry of Finance and the Honourable Prime Minister and the Cabinet of Barbados gives me the resources to be able to do so, that is my commitment to our young people of Barbados. We cannot have students leaving school, ma'am, without some kind of certification. As a ministry, we have been looking more and more and implementing more and more opportunities for students to obtain City of Guilds certification, to obtain their CVQs, to make the public of Barbados, make parents understand and appreciate that you don't have to only have a CXC. You can have the CCLSC, you can have the City of Guilds qualification, you can go the route of technical and vocational skills, and we can start the technical and vocational skills at a younger age, ma'am. And therefore, schools like Alma Parish are a necessary requirement for a society such as ours. We are no different from any other country across the world, but our educational system has to be reflective of the different needs of our society and the different abilities and the varying abilities that exist within our society. The other schools, ma'am, that are high on the agenda as well, the Vauxhall Primary School is also, it was in the papers a few months ago in relation to some environmental issues there. We would have made some taken corrective steps to deal with some issues at the school. Some additional repairs will happen during the summer program. But this school is of particular interest, ma'am, because it is a school from which Shirley Chisholm, who is the first female to run for President of the United States, would also have passed through those doors. And so we intend to pay particular attention to that particular facility. I think in the fullness of time, we will also look to give honor to her as well and through her family in relation to perhaps the renaming of the institution. But I think that that is one school which is in need of some renovations, some extensive renovations as well. And we have listed that on our list to be able to address. Ma'am, there are also a number of schools that we have identified that are also in dire need of electrical upgrades. Now, with electrical upgrades also comes some refurbishment as well, because you can't remove or upgrade electricals without touching the ceiling or touching the walls or touching other aspects of the particular plant. We have estimated around 4.4 million of this budget to assist us with schools such as Belmont, Wesley Hall, Westbury, St. George Primary, St. John Primary, St. Christopher, and Welch's, all of which in different ranges have had electrical issues from time to time, and we are committed to taking a phased approach to being able to correct what I believe has been a very hodgepodge approach to dealing with the upgrades to the electrical infrastructure across our school plants. Is it all that needs to be done, ma'am? I will say wholeheartedly no. And if we could wave a magic wand and do all of the schools one time, I certainly would be the first there at the start line and certainly at the finish line. But it is a start, and what I've tried to do is to prioritize those schools where we have constantly had concerns being raised, and we want to improve the lighting in the classroom, because the lighting in many classrooms does not look like the one here in this chamber. You walk into some schools across the country and you know, it is very dark. There's sometimes poor ventilation. The light fittings have not been changed for several years, and it boggles the mind how a Ministry of Education and a minister could have presided over things like that and not prioritized and fought for the ability to make the transition in these schools. Ma'am, there are also works that we have planned for the Wilkie Comerback School, which has some issues in relation to its structure. The Good Shepherd Primary School. We're seeking on the Western Corridor to provide for special needs children, and we're looking at both the site at St. Albans as well as St. Albans, because St. Albans and Good Shepherd, sorry, because we are finding a pattern in terms of parents seeking placements for children, particularly on the Western Corridor of the island. And there's a major shortage in terms of classroom space. At St. Albans, we will have to perhaps look to do a rebuild of a build out of a block in order to accommodate additional spaces, as well as at Good Shepherd, a potential is there for the infill of some classroom spaces on the upper floor over the existing hall. The Irving Wilson School, we are getting ready to do some renovations at that site for this year. Many of you would have seen the Ann Hill School having had some extensive work done on it last year as well. And again, it is my commitment to ensure that those students with special needs are not left behind at any opportunity that we have. The Irving Wilson School, while we are restoring the school plant, I'm also mindful that there are some drainage issues around one of the particular buildings there, and in a lot of cases, we're having to engage the services of consultants to be able to provide us with guidance as to whether it's the engineering viability of a particular structure, whether it is in relation to the architectural the architectural design of a particular building to determine how to retrofit or how to refurbish. We are having to engage quantity surveyors to be able to help us to work through the scope of work so that we have a proper appreciation of what the expenditure is likely to be, and obviously project managers to be able to help us to manage the project. Let me just say a little bit about that, ma'am, because we have increased the sum here to the sum of $700,000. And the Education Technical Management Unit within the Ministry of Education, like many other units across other ministries, has not transitioned its role based on the quantum of work that it has had to do. So the staff work exceedingly hard. but they find it difficult to be able, particularly when the previous administration would have constantly been reducing the amount of resources available to it, to be able to accomplish the tasks that they have been given. As a consequence, ma'am, we have been having to outsource, in many cases, the work, so as to ensure that even for the domestic summer program, we were in a position to be able to have as many schools done. We've had to bring in oversight consultants to oversee the projects, to work with the building maintenance supervisors. We've had to work closely with the air quality testing persons and with labor, to be able to check to see the types of environments that exist. And therefore, ma'am, the costs that we have had to incur within the ministry sometimes just to be able to figure out what to do can sometimes be very burdensome. But the only way that we're going to be able to plan and also to be able to respond to the environmental challenges is if we have the adequate allocations in terms of our budgets provided. So, ma'am, the 700,000 is in relation to professional services. Let me just mention as well that we are looking at painting initiatives, because as I said, there are a number of schools that I do feel require a facelift. We have traditionally used cream colors at our schools, but I believe cream colors are just inviting students to scroll up the walls and make them look very untidy. And so we've been making a special effort with a number of schools to not only do murals, but also to seek to do beautification at those schools. The other area, ma'am, is the generators, the procurement of generators. Prime Minister would have indicated that in preparation for the hurricane season, we needed to equip the schools with not only shutters, but generators, fire extinguishers. A number of our shelters did not have these things in them. And I think we have a responsibility as a country to ensure that while we encourage people to prepare for the hurricane season, that if we also encourage people to go to a shelter, that at the very basic that we have things that can accommodate them while they are there. In this hurricane season, obviously, ma'am, we are expecting some significant systems. I pray and hope that God will bless us as he has continued to do in the past. But the reality is that nothing in life is certain, and therefore, as a government, we have to prepare for every eventuality. Therefore, there are about 10 additional generators, fuel tanks, and the construction of some enclosures that are required at a number of our shelters, and the sum of $796,838 is required basically to complete the procurement and the installation of the remaining 10 standby generators, fuel storage tanks, and the construction of the fencing enclosures at the 21 shelters. Ma'am, I have one other item for which this supplementary relates to. As I said, I promise you that it would not be short this afternoon. The school meal center. We are still in discussions with the contractor. We've had, I think this country is well aware that a facility was to be constructed at the Six Roads facility in St. Philip, which would have seen the St. Christopher facility closing, the school meals department closing, and also the intention was to allow at least 12,000 to 15,000 meals per day to be generated at the facility for our students, and also to cater to the country in the event that there was an emergency in the form of some kind of disaster. The project was expected to be completed between 2012 and 2014. I think it is fair to say that there were significant cost overruns. The audit that was done on the first few months of my coming to office reflected some deficiencies both in the management of the project by the last administration, and certainly in the disbursement of funds to the contractor. And then there were disputes with the contractor and the technical unit, which led to some further challenges which deepened the situation and has led to a very protracted battle for us to be able to get to the point where we can make some progress on this project. Ma'am, today it is fair to say that we are making some progress, Within the next week or so, I believe we will have a further assessment of the works, where the disputed works are, and we should be in a position to start some works on the facilities in the near future. We are therefore budgeting $3 million. We anticipate that it is going to probably be closer to $6 million that is going to be required to complete this project, but we know that we have to start the project. In fairness, the building, the upper floor is relatively complete. However, there is a lot of equipment that was ordered and some that is still to be ordered that has not made its way to the island as yet and has not been installed. There was also a dispute over the size of the pipes in the kitchen, so there's a lot of equipment that has not been able to be installed in the kitchen area. So we're hopeful that those issues can be resolved, and the car park, of course, was ridiculously priced, ma'am, and we've had to find ways to cut those costs to be able to make it more manageable for us at this particular point in time. So, ma'am, that basically covers, I believe, the essence of the request for the $21,802,000 under head 87. And with those few words, ma'am, I beg to move that this head does now stand part.
Question is that head 87 in the amount of $21,802,000 stand par. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
Madam Deputy Chair, Madam Chair, I beg to move that you do not report to His Honor the Speaker the passing of one money resolution in committee, the Standing Finance Committee.
Seconder. Question is that I do not report to His Honor the Speaker the passing of one bill in Standing Finance in money resolution. All honorable members in favor, please say aye. Aye. All those against, please say nay. Methinks the ayes have it.
The Chairman of the Finance Committee has reported the passing of one resolution in committee.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this resolution be read a first time.
The question is that the aforementioned resolution be read the first time. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this resolution be read a second time.
The question is that the resolution be read a second time. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move that this resolution be now agreed to.
The question is that the resolution be now agreed to. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. All those against, please say no. Methinks the ayes have it. This resolution stands passed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With that, we have come to the end of today's sitting. We have also, Mr. Speaker, come to the end of this session of Parliament. On the 22nd of July, the Honourable Prime Minister would have made an announcement to the country that today, the 8th of August, would have been the last sitting of this Parliament, and would have indicated her intention to prorogue Parliament until the 15th of September. Sir, we would have, over the course of the last, well, this week in particular, attempted to tidy up a number of matters that we wanted to complete before the end of this session. Because I think, sir, as you know, and I think the country may know, a number of the items on the order paper will die with the end of the Parliament today. And I believe that we've had relative success in terms of being able to achieve the agenda of this administration. But COVID-19 has presented some challenges that none of us could have foreseen, and none of us could have prepared for. I think it is fair to say that just as we were about to turn the corner and to put ourselves on the right track, COVID-19 came and has made us all have to reconsider, ministry by ministry, individual by individual, and certainly company by company across this country has made us had to revisit the way in which we do things. Come September, sir, and certainly within the next few weeks, it is the intention of this administration, and particularly the members of cabinet, to refocus and to repurpose its vision for the country, because we are now in a completely different environment. As I would have said in the last debate, even within education, we are having to reprioritize the things that we would have prioritized 2 years ago or even last year. And so all of us as ministers have been tasked with looking at what we have accomplished, but also looking at what we are likely to be able to accomplish given the constraints that we have. And so as we do so, sir, the next few weeks will be spent with colleagues and certainly within our respective ministries, taking a relook at what we are doing, where we are going, and what are the tools that are necessary to get us to be able to get us through this period, this very difficult period in the history of this country. We would normally go on recess at this time, so it is not unusual for us to prorogue Parliament. Perhaps colleagues have had a longer period in this chamber than I have, in the sense that obviously I was away for an extended period, but it is not unusual for us to have long hours or have long sessions, and certainly look forward to a break from the House of Parliament to be able to come back refreshed in September. I want to, though, say, Mr. Speaker, that I want to thank all who have participated in the last few months, because we have been in a transition from our normal place in Bridgetown. I think most people know that we are doing some refurbishment at the facility there, and we've had to take up location here in Hastings. It is not as illustrious a building as the House of Parliament in Bridgetown, but I think what it has also shown us is that we can have Parliament anywhere in the context of being able to get the people's business done. And therefore, we look forward to being able to get back into the House of Parliament in Bridgetown. But at the same time, we are on a mission to achieve what we set out to do. And therefore, if we have to adjust, if we have to be inconvenienced, we don't even have a bell, sir. But we have made do, and we've tried to basically accommodate in every possible way to be able to do the people's business. And I want to say thank you to all colleagues for their contributions over the course of the past few months. Also to, and that includes the leader of the opposition as well. Because while we may not always agree on everything, there's a certain respectability that I believe we all have for what we do. Because at the end of the day, we all know that his heart has also been in representing the people as well. So we may have differences of opinion, as we all have on our side as well from time to time. But I think that we are certainly well aware of the mission to be able to represent the people of this country. And sir, I want to just thank all honourable members. I want to thank the members at the head table, the honourable clerks of the Parliament. Without you, I don't know what we would do from time to time. To be able to get through the sessions. I want to thank the Royal Barbados Police Force, the security that is here for ensuring our safety. I want to also thank the admin and the support staff who again help to support the clerks, the caterers as well, who have again been able to look after our needs and keep us refreshed and energized from time to time. The landlord for accommodating us in these premises as well, and also the public, sir, because all of those persons in the public who sent us here, while we know that it has been difficult, I do feel that they know that our heart is in the right place. Even if for the last few months it has been challenging to be able to be present at times or to be able to respond in the way that they would want, I do believe that the public understands that what this administration inherited was not easy. And we always said it wasn't going to be easy. I think what people are feeling right now is hardship. It is not hardship that we have necessarily inflicted, but it is hardship nonetheless. And we empathize and we sympathize with the concerns, the frustrations, the feelings that people have, the uncertainties about what the future holds. But I want to just say, sir, that we are still clear in our mission as a government. We are clear in our purpose. We are clear in the hope that we've given to the country. And I believe, as I said before, that in the course of the next few weeks, we will have a renewed sense of purpose and objective as we are able to set about to fulfill the promises that we have made, the direction that we have given to the country, and really be able to transform the Barbadian society and economy. So, sir, I just wanted to say again, thank you to you as well, sir, because you have been our speaker through this journey. You have tolerated us on some occasions. Some of us have misbehaved, and I look in no particular direction. But some have misbehaved, and you have kept firm and steadfast in your duties as well. If there's anyone that I have missed, let me just apologize from now, but I do want to thank all of you for the assistance, even the ones who come on a regular basis to sit in the public gallery for what it really is now, because it is just not even a replica of what we are accustomed to. But those who listen online and pay attention to the debates, again, I think we just want to say we really appreciate you, and I hope that everyone has a restful period. Many of us will not have a restful period because we will either be getting our ministries in order, but I do want to say sincere thanks, sir, to all persons who helped to make us able and capable to do our jobs. Thank you. Yeah, sign it in. Yeah. With those few words, sir, I beg to move that the sitting be adjourned, sign it in.
The question is that this honorable chamber be adjourned, sign it aye. All those honorable members in favor, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. This honorable chamber stands adjourned, sign it aye.